Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. You're listening to WEGL 91.1 in Auburn, Alabama. Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, Auburn University. I am Jared Dillard here with a new program simply called National Sports, where we'll just sit down and talk about sports from all over the world and the United States. Here with me today is none other than J.J. Jackson and Jahlani Baptiste.
Thanks for having us, man.
Proud to be on the first show ever of National Sports with you, Jared. It's an honor.
I can already see where this is going. So, first things first, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about probably the single-handedly most dramatic story in the NFL. Tom Brady and Deflategate. Now, I'm going to tell you how this went down for me. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm an Indianapolis Colts fan. I've been since I was 6 years old. And you know what my first reaction was? Well, first of all, let me tell you, I was already sad and crying because the Colts was single-handedly defeated horribly by the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And then at night, my sister came into my room and told me, "Did you hear about Tom Brady?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? Tom Brady? What could he possibly have done?" I go on ESPN and I see Tom Brady, apparently, along with the New England Patriots, deflated their footballs intentionally and cheated. And let me tell you something, I was furious. I was like, whatever he gets, it's not enough. But then, as it went on, I started to realize that I don't think Tom Brady did anything wrong. The turning point for me was when the schedules were released for the NFL regular season. And guess who just happened to be the Patriots' fifth game if Tom Brady served the 4-game suspension?
The Colts.
It was the Indianapolis Colts on primetime Sunday night. And you know what I saw right there for NFL? I saw money. I'm pretty sure Roger Goodell had money signs in his eyes. So my question to you guys is, first of all, do you guys think Tom Brady did anything? And second, if he did, is that 4-game punishment, is that really a good punishment for him?
All right, Jared. I believe, Tom Brady probably knew about the deflation of the balls. I don't think that he ever put his hands on the ball to deflate it.
Yeah.
There's no way the team would let him do it personally. I think, the organization probably knew something about it. But on that note, going off of what a lot of NFL players have said and a lot of other, people talking about it, yeah, it's a bad situation. It's tough. But honestly, if we look at the game that the Colts played, they didn't play really well that game. They did not show up.
They didn't.
The Patriots defense stopped them from scoring. So even, with the whole Deflategate situation, the Patriots were simply the better team that day. But 4-game suspension, I think that's kind of heavy. 4 games, that's a fourth of the season. That could be from playoffs to not making the playoffs. Those 4 games make a big difference without your starting quarterback. But, I think a suspension is, needed, but I would have said 2 games. 4 games is kind of heavy for me.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything that Jahlani's saying. I personally think that this situation has just been blown way out of proportion. And it's crazy that, like you said, the Patriots pretty much embarrassed the Indianapolis Colts in that AFC Championship game and then went on to win the Super Bowl against Seattle. And I just think that we should move on. We should be excited about a brand new football season, being honest. We love this sport so much. We're so excited for it to be back that we shouldn't be paying so much attention into something that's already happened. That's just my thoughts. Let's move on to the new season.
Do you guys think we'll ever know the actual truth about what happened? I'm pretty sure, Tom Brady, the NFL, they're both going into his legal battle. And Tom Brady, whether he did it or not, it's obvious he's going to play either I'm going to be exonerated completely or I'm going to go down fighting. And the NFL has the same mentality. We're not going to admit that we were wrong. We're going to go down fighting as a fighting champion. Do you guys think we'll ever know the actual truth behind all this? I don't think we will.
There's just no way. We can't go back and see it. There's no video, so we'll never know the truth. The Patriots, even if they know they did something wrong, they'll never admit to it. It'll never go out.
Yeah, they won't admit to it. Even if they did. JJ, what do you think about that?
Yeah, there's no way we can go back into time and figure out exactly what happened, which is why, me personally, I just think that we need to move on and get excited about a new football season being here. Serve a suspension if they decide that a suspension needs to be served, and then move on.
Going on to another subject in NFL. I don't know if you guys seen this, but Terrell Suggs laid a pretty nasty hit on Sam Bradford. And when you think nasty, you think, oh, he got him straight in the chest. Sam Bradford down for a little bit. No. If you recall, Sam Bradford was injured last season, torn ACL, if I remember correctly, and he had to have it surgically repaired. He's now with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was at quarterback playing the read option. And it was I'm pretty sure Terrell Suggs got a penalty on that play. I thought it was a legal hit. He should have got the penalty, yes. But it still was a very dirty play. Because I don't know an NFL linebacker who sees a quarterback. It's like your dog when you come home from, school, and he's there at the fence, is waiting for you to come pet him. Like, Terrell Suggs should have saw red and hit him square in the chest. But he ended up hitting him in the legs. So, I want to get your guys' thoughts. Was that a dirty hit on Terrell Suggs' part? Do you think he was, intentionally trying to hurt Sam Bradford?
I don't think so, man. These NFL players, they have respect for each other in the game. You don't purposely try to hurt anyone. Like you said, it was a read option play. The running back had just, left. He was reading the running back first. From what it looked like to me, how I saw the play, it looked like he was reading running back. Sam Bradford kept the ball, so he lunged at Sam Bradford. It was kind of low, but it wasn't, it didn't look like he was targeting his knee. He can't help who the quarterback is and what injuries they've had in the past. I don't think he was purposely going for his knees. The penalty, Chip Kelly himself came out and said he doesn't think Terrell Suggs should have got penalized for that. It's a football play. He made a play. He went for the quarterback. You can't pull up last second just because the guy was previously injured.
That's true.
Absolutely, I agree with what he's saying. You certainly don't want to see your quarterback take hits like that often in the preseason, knowing that these games don't really matter. They're just trying to get into game shape. And Sam Bradford was clearly upset about the play. But to me, just play on and let's try to keep our players healthy before the regular season starts.
In the end, this is what I think about some NFL players. I think that if somebody has an injury, a star quarterback, running back, wide receiver, that some players will intentionally exploit that. Like last season with Peyton Manning in the postseason, when he played the Indianapolis Colts, something was obviously wrong with him. Come to find out, torn rotator cuff. But we didn't really know about that until after the game, because if they would have said something before the game, you better bet the Indianapolis Colts were going to go after him in that shoulder. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. It seems that a team notices that a player has a particular injury, that they're going to try their best to keep him out of the game and find a way to hurt him. That's my thoughts.
Let's move on to my boy Johnny Manziel. I'm a big Johnny Manziel fan. Yesterday, it was announced that he will sit out the rest of the preseason for a sore right elbow. It doesn't seem like anything major. Well, let's go ahead and put this in perspective. Johnny Manziel in his first preseason game was 7 for 11 for 42 yards. And in his second game was 10 for 18, 118 yards and a touchdown, and had a pretty sick throw on top of that. So, how do you guys look at Johnny Manziel and his growth as a person from out of college to his first rookie season, which was, in all accounts, a train wreck, to now? Do you think this is that Cinderella story where that one player found out that this is not how I want my life to be and just turn it around?
No, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's calling his life to that point a train wreck is kind of, it's kind of harsh because if he never got into any legal trouble. He's still a young kid in his early 20s, and when you come into fame at 19 years old, you just don't know how to handle it. You come into money at 20 years old, all of a sudden you're a millionaire. That's just you do things that you couldn't do before. You make mistakes. It seems to me that he has matured. He hasn't gotten any legal trouble, so we can't, look at him as the same light as somebody that's gotten into legal trouble. He seems to have matured and really learned the offense at least. He's looked a lot better as a quarterback in this preseason than he has all of last season, regular season. I don't think the injury is anything that's too bad. It's probably just precautionary, because he's looked good, man. The Browns look like they actually have some potential on offense. Their defense, got some players over there. So I think this is a precautionary. Let's keep him healthy. Let's give him time to rest that elbow. And, when time regular season starts, then, he'll come back and do whatever he has to do.
Right, and he's in a tight battle right now with Josh McCown to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So for his sake, it is a little frustrating that, he would like to have played these last two games to solidify, okay, I am going to be the starting quarterback for this football team. But I totally agree with resting him and making sure that that elbow is good to go for when the regular season comes, and hopefully he can make an impact then. But I have been extremely impressed with what I've seen out of him on the football field. Several of the throws he's making in the preseason, a lot of NFL Network guys are comparing him to Aaron Rodgers with the way he's throwing on the run and in a lot of unorthodox motions, and he's been very successful so far, not to mention his ability to run the football. And in that first preseason game, he did score a rushing touchdown. So Johnny Football should be making a lot of headlines and a lot of highlight plays this season.
So before we go into our commercial break that's coming up, I just want to talk about how bad the 49ers preseason has been. It was so bad, I had to write down everything that's happened. So let me go down this list. So Jim Harbaugh left, quote-unquote, left the 49ers to go to Michigan. Whether he left on good terms or not, it's up for debate. The 49ers also lost Patrick Willis and Chris Borland when they retired. Aldon Smith was arrested August 6th for alleged hit and run while intoxicated, and the 49ers released him the next day. Ex-49ers player Ray McDonald was charged with rape of an intoxicated person, and Ahmad Brooks was charged with misdemeanor sexual battery pertaining to the same case. Now, I'm going to start with Jim Harbaugh, because I don't know if he has a magic mirror or a magic 8-ball or something, but it seems like he got out at the right time. He didn't dodge a bullet. He dodged a train that was coming full speed for San Francisco. What do you guys think about the 49ers season in general? Is this season just doomed? Is there any reason to cheer for the 49ers at this point?
I wouldn't say that the season is doomed. I think that we still have 16 regular season football games to play, but you're right. They have been in the headlines very, very, very often throughout the offseason, and it's a lot to put on the shoulders of a rookie head coach and Jim Tomsula. I don't know necessarily that Jim Harbaugh had any idea that all of this would happen. Chris Borland and Patrick Willis that you mentioned were two great linebackers who retired at a very early age, in my opinion, because of their fear of the concussions and that kind of thing, and we've started to see that more often in the world of football. But I wouldn't necessarily say that their season is doomed just yet. There is a lot of turnover on this team, but Kaepernick is back at quarterback. They have some weapons on offense. So Carlos Hyde is going to get a lot of more carries now that Frank Gore has left for Indianapolis. I like what I see on offense, just if they can get people to replace the guys that they left on defense. And it hurts that they're in Seattle's division, because we know Seattle will be up in another good year from them.
I agree a lot with what JJ was saying. But at the same time, I think Jim Harbaugh's decision had a lot to do with, they had the owner and him were, it was well documented that they weren't on the best of terms. But at the same time, the Michigan head coaching job, that's a great opportunity. A lot of people can say the same thing about the 49ers, but, when you're a head coach in the NFL, that's what you are. You're simply a head coach. Now, when you're the head coach at a college town, you're the general manager. You get your own players. Mm-hmm. You're the head coach. You're certain towns, you're like the mayor of the city.
Yeah.
You know, was a great opportunity. He's an alumni of the University of Michigan, so you know that's a great opportunity for him. You know, it's well documented. Also, if you look at it, the last year the 49ers were 8-8, and you know they were on a downward trend. So I won't say that their season is already, you know, doomed, because you know you still have the entire regular season to play. But like as JJ said, you're in a division with the Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll. You see what they're doing over there. You know, you have Arizona Cardinals. They're one piece away from being a very good team. You know, they were just out of it last year. You still got to look at the Rams because they look good too. You know, that's the toughest division in football in my opinion. You know, that's going to be a hard division to win. I think, you know, with all of that combined, it was just a hard, you know, decision probably for Jim Harbaugh. But, you know, if I was in his place, I would do the same thing. If I had the opportunity to come back and coach my university, I would take it any day.
And not to mention, in that division, St. Louis Rams acquired Nick Foles to be their starting quarterback from the Philadelphia Eagles. And just a season ago, he had 27 touchdown passes compared to just 2 interceptions. And that Philadelphia team was very, very successful. So that'll definitely be a division to watch out. It's very competitive. The Seahawks added Jimmy Graham. So other teams are reloading. The 49ers are just going to have to do their work on the field.
All right, 2 things before we go to commercial break. A, JJ, you're entirely too positive for me. And B, from what I heard about Nick Foles, do you really think the Rams are going to be that good? Were you really up on the Rams just now, or was that just me being crazy?
I really, in my opinion, the Rams are my sleeper pick. I look at them as the same way I look at Arkansas and the SEC. You know, they weren't the best team last year, but they have the pieces. You know, they added Todd Gurley. He's not going to be 100% the first game of the season, but we've already seen what Trey Mason can do. Once he became the man in St. Louis last year, he was putting up 100-yard games. You add that with Todd Gurley, that offensive line, which is a really good offensive line. They added Nick Fairley from Detroit. That defensive line is going to be really good. They have the pieces. All they need is that quarterback. Not saying that they didn't have a good quarterback last year, but Nick Foles is he's proven, if nothing else, he won't turn the ball over.
And he has Tavon Austin to throw the football to, so Tavon Austin will be making plenty of plays.
I'm going to let you finish. We got to go to commercial right quick. You're listening to National Sports on WEGL 91.1 FM. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks.
So, you know, I'm a dog, and I'm kind of new to this family, but I've noticed a trend. My humans do this thing where they go around and get all my toys and hide them in this basket, but it's always the same basket, and it's always the same place, and then they act so surprised when I find them, but I'm like, hello, that's where you put it last time. Humans are the worst at hide and go seek.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering it. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Wildfires burn millions of acres across the country each year. And each year, wildland firefighters battle to contain them. But they can't do it alone. For some communities, it's not a question of if wildfires strike, but when. Get fire adapted. Learn what you can do now to reduce wildfire damage later at fireadapted.org. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. Learn more at fireadapted.org.
Most days go by without a whole lot of surprises. But what if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? Would you be prepared? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, be ready. Get a kit. Make a plan. Be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
I came in like the wrecking ball. All you ever did was
out your roommate, tune into WEGL 91.1 in Auburn, Alabama.
Welcome back to National Sports this Friday afternoon. I'm here with J.J. Jackson and Jahlani Baptiste. I'm sorry, Jahlani.
It's all good, man.
We're going to head over to Major League Baseball. The NL Central. I'm going to give you this. Out of the top 5 teams in Major League Baseball, 3 of them are from the NL Central. St. Louis Cardinals lead Major League Baseball in wins. They have 82, counting last night. The Pittsburgh Pirates are 3rd in Major League Baseball, and Chicago is 4th. So, first of all, let's just talk about the Chicago Cubs. 'Cause I remember in the beginning of the season, there was a museum that had a DeLorean. You know, from the famous movie Back to the Future. We went to 2015, Chicago Cubs won the World Series. And it said, if the Chicago Cubs win the World Series in 2015, we're going to sell off this DeLorean. And I sat there and I laughed because I was like, there's no way the Chicago Cubs are going to be in the World Series. And now I'm sitting here looking at the fact that the Chicago Cubs, let me remind you, could actually be in the World Series this year. They have a very good team. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. The Chicago Cubs are definitely in the hunt for the postseason. And baseball, you just have to get to the postseason because anything can happen. You go to the 7-game series, 5-game series, and the division series. The Cubs will have a 1-game playoff against Pittsburgh, and I guarantee they're probably going to start John Lester, their big offseason acquisition, a guy that has won many, many playoff games and 2 World Series rings with the Boston Red Sox. Joe Madden has done a great job coming in as that manager of the club and playing well. And then another thing that is so important is how well their young talent has played. Anthony Rizzo and Starling Castro, 2 guys that have been there, have really taken the younger guys under their wings, and you've seen them, great production out of them. Addison Russell's playing well at second base, an Auburn commit before he was drafted. And then you add in Kyle Schwarber, a guy who was leading Major League Baseball in batting average for a period there when he first got called up behind the plate, and they're able to put him out in left field. Just all around, it's a great team. They've pitched very well this season. And anything can happen in baseball. If their pitching stays strong, they'll be in the hunt for sure.
Yeah, I agree with everything that JJ just stated. Chicago Cubs doing a good job keeping that second spot on the wild card. Right now we have, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Chicago just leading the way in baseball. I find it kind of ironic if you look over in the AL Central. The AL Central is terrible, and, the NL Central's looking like it could be the best division in baseball. You look at the Pittsburgh Pirates, they have a 4-game lead on the Cubs, but the Cubs have a 5-game lead on the wild card. That's just crazy. And on top of that, you have the St. Louis Cardinals. They have another 4.5-game lead on the Pirates. The Pirates, they're doing an amazing job this year also. They're seemingly healthy. They look like they pretty much have that wild card locked up. The Cubs, they have it for now. You got to watch out for San Francisco. They're only 4.5 games back, which is not terrible. The Cardinals, their pitching staff over there is doing an amazing job. They have allowed the least amount of runs in baseball. While this is not like football where that's not the most impressive stat, but it's still, you have your staff come out, give you a solid outing every single time. It's a good way to win.
No doubt. And not to mention, like you said, San Francisco Giants, you know that they're going to make a run, a late push here at the end. They always do, winning 3 of the past 5 World Series. They also were in that second wild card spot, and last year they traveled to Pittsburgh for that 1-game playoff. And I know we're going to talk about that a little later, the 1-game playoff, that is, and beat Pittsburgh and then went on to win the World Series over the Kansas City Royals. So, seriously, anything can happen in the postseason once you get there, and it's going to be so exciting to watch.
Definitely.
So, did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
No, man, it's all good. Go ahead.
All right. So I'm getting ahead of myself now. We're going to jump to what JJ just mentioned. The 1-game playoff in the wild card for these NL teams. AL, I'm not particularly upset about, but NL, it is pretty much guaranteed. Well, I guess nothing is guaranteed, but it's likely that the Chicago Cubs and Pittsburgh Pirates will play each other in the wild card. And I'm upset about that. The reason being is because the third and fourth best teams in Major League Baseball will have a one-game playoff. It's not a 3-game series, not 5, not 7. It's going to be a one-game playoff. So my question is, should MLB change the way they do the playoffs? Like, should that one-game series be 3 games? Or should they rank it by best teams? For example, what's the team that NL had the lowest record? The Dodgers,
Right.
who's winning the division. Should the Dodgers and what's the other NL team? I'm drawing a blank for some
The
reason.
Mets.
The Mets. Should the Dodgers and Mets play in the one-game playoff and let the Cardinals, Pirates, and Chicago Cubs be, skip the wild card? Like, should that happen?
Well, me personally, it feels like you have to keep some meaning in your division.
Yeah.
It's an honor to win your division. You can't control how the other teams in your division play. You can't, fault me because my division is weaker than another division. I feel as though if the Dodgers win their division, the Mets win their division, the Cardinals win their division, they're safe. That's just, they've earned that right. They won their division outright. So, they should go on. The 2 wild card teams, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh, and I'm sorry, Chicago, but you happen to find this beast of the St. Louis Cardinals team. And
that you couldn't beat in the division. Yeah, that's a very, very good point that you're making there. And this is only the 4th season, I believe, that the playoffs have been in this format. It used to be that there was just one wild card winner, and you only had 4 National League teams in the playoffs and 4 American League teams in the playoffs. I agree that the one-game playoff is kind of silly, that you play 162 games for your season to come down to one game. But then when you think about it, there are so many other teams that played 162 games, but they don't get that next game. So it is an honor. I would like to see it expand to a 5-game series or a 3-game series at least, but I don't think that we should reformat it because then there's no point in having your divisions and you don't feel good about winning a division anymore.
Yeah, I can see the reasoning behind that. When you win a division, you expect to be safe. You were the best in your division. Nobody can take that from you. I do wish to see that the wild card expand to at least 3 games, maybe 5, not 7, but at least 3 games. But I touched on the Dodgers a little bit. I'm gonna go over to the Dodgers and the Houston Astros because we're in the middle of the baseball season, so I can't make any crazy predictions. But I was able to make one Major League Baseball. So listen to this one. I had to write this down. The Giants will overtake the Dodgers and win the division because if you look at the Giants' schedule, they play a 4-game series against the Dodgers in late September when the season ends. And the Giants are 9-3 this season against the Dodgers. As for the Astros are 4-8 against the Rangers. And I think dark horse team here, the Los Angeles Angels, will come back to life and win the AL West. And get this, I think the Minnesota Twins will win the last wildcard spot over the Astros and Rangers when they start beating each other up. So I don't even see the Houston Astros, who are winning their division, or the Rangers, who are right behind them, winning or getting into playoffs at all. So I was wondering, what's your take on that, or if you had any other crazy playoff predictions?
I certainly think the second half collapse post the All-Star break of the Angels has been very interesting to watch. To me, my biggest thing is that when you have the best player in all of baseball in Mike Trout, we could talk forever about how good this guy is when you pull up his numbers at his age against the greats in baseball. But it's just so interesting, when you talk about a sport like basketball, when you have the best player in your world on the team, you feel great every night about your chances to win. But when you have the best player in baseball, he needs 8 other guys around him for that team to be successful. So the Angels have a lot of ground to make up. It's very competitive in that division with Houston and Texas, and then them also fighting for a wild card spot. So that is definitely a storyline to watch out for.
Yeah, I agree with what JJ was saying. If you look at the American League wild card right now, there's a half-game lead for that second place position with the Angels and Minnesota Twins, with the Rangers holding on to it currently. But I would have to disagree on the fact I do not see anybody else winning that West. I've just not been impressed by the way Los Angeles has been playing recently. I've not been impressed by the way that Texas is playing recently. The Mariners and Oakland, they're both out of it. The Houston just finished a series against the Yankees and, honestly just made the Yankees look bad. The Yankees have been playing really good baseball, in the AL East, which is also another division race that, it looks it's going to go down to the wire. The Yankees and the Blue Jays over there have been playing really well, but I just don't see it happening. I don't see Houston losing that division. They have a 5-game lead right now, and I get what you're saying about how they've been playing against the other teams, but I just don't see Houston losing that division. And this is just a little minor thing right here. The Houston Astros are the only team in that division with a positive point differential. The only team. So that means that they're the only team in that division really playing winning baseball. So I know. I think that Houston is going to hold on to that division, and I think San Francisco could probably come back and win that West. It's just they've proven themselves year after year. They're never out of it. Like JJ said last year, they were the second wild card team, and they went on to win the World Series. That's an amazing feat. They were at the brink of elimination. The San Francisco Giants, I believe, until they're out of it, they're never out of it. So I really think that they could come back and win that division.
I think one of the golden rules in baseball is just never count out the San Francisco Giants, and that the Atlanta Braves will probably never win a World Series. That's probably the second golden rule in baseball. Before we go to commercial break, I'm going to give you my best teams in each league. I think obviously in the NL, the Cardinals, they're the best in Major League Baseball. They're obviously going to be the best in the National League. Some people would pick Pittsburgh to be the runner-up to the Cardinals. I'm going to pick Chicago. I like Chicago. I like their bullpen. I think it's loaded. I like the front end of the lineup. I think they can hang with Pittsburgh, and when it does come down to the wild card, and it will, Chicago will beat Pittsburgh, and I think they'll do it in a convincing fashion. I think Chicago probably win by more than 3 runs in that game. As for the AL, I think everybody can agree Kansas City, especially with the trades they made at the trade deadline, is the best team in the AL, followed by Toronto. I'm really hoping Toronto wins their division, because I'm just that guy. I just don't like the New York Yankees. Even though I live in New York, I just don't like the New York Yankees.
I disagree. I do think that Toronto, honestly, is probably the best team in the AL. Yeah, Kansas City made some good trades. Kansas City was in the World Series last year. But when you go out and get Troy Tulowitzki and, David Price, those two factors make a big difference. Kansas City, their record looks amazing. You're right. They have, was that a 4-game lead on Toronto? But they also play in the AL Central, and we all know the AL Central is terrible.
Exactly. And not to mention, on that Toronto team, you have Joey Bautista, Joey Bats, 30 home runs so far, and Josh Donaldson, a former Auburn Tiger, was the first player in baseball this year to get 100 RBIs. So that offense is incredibly strong in Toronto. They just need pitching aside from David Price. That was so big for them to go out and get you a guy that can win one game, but he can't pitch every game, so they need other guys to step up for him.
And just jumping off of what JJ said about, their offense, they have a 170-point differential. That's even higher than what the St. Louis Cardinals have at 130, and that's just amazing. At this point of the season,
they love to score runs.
Yeah, they're scoring. They're scoring. They can score with the best of them. But, pitching is what's going to win the World Series. So until that point, until the playoffs, we'll see what happens. But I'm going with Toronto. I think Toronto's the real deal. Kansas City, they look good, but I'm just not sold yet, because if you're playing Detroit and Cleveland every, month, it will pad your stats and make you look a little bit better.
It's true. Well, we're going to go to commercial break. You're listening to WEGL 91.1 FM National Sports with Jared Dillard, and with me, JJ Jackson and Jahlani Baptiste. We'll be right back.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Confessions of a Potentially Perfect Parent, brought to you by AdoptUsKids.org.
I know more about cooking dinner for a party of 12 than about packing a lunch for a 12-year-old. I know kids like things like fish sticks. Fillets, I get, but sticks? Maybe we can just compromise on mac and cheese. Can you make that with Brie?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit AdoptUsKids.org for more information. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm so glad we left that stupid party.
No joke.
Hey, baby, are you an overdue library book? Because you got fine written all over you. Oh, barf.
What about that girl with the hoop earrings?
Ridiculous. When she was dancing...
Megan, look out! Look out!
Oh, my God, Becky. Becky, are you okay? My arm. I think it's broken. Can you bend it? It's already bent. In the wrong direction. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry. I only had a few drinks. I was just buzzed.
Really? Just buzzed?
Yeah, I swear.
Well, in that case, my arm is fine. Ah, that's better.
You're really okay? You're serious, Becky?
No, genius. I'm not serious.
Ow! My arm, it hurts.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
Did you know that listening to WEGL 91.1 can make you live longer? No, listening to WEGL 91.1 does not actually make any person live longer. In fact, the only thing scientifically proven to make people live longer are exercise and a healthy diet. In fact, listening to WEGL 91.1 may actually shorten your life. Listen to WEGL 91.1.
Welcome back to National Sports. During the commercial break, I got tired of JJ being so positive, and I kicked him out of the studio. So now we have Ryan Lavoie here to talk college football with us, and we still have Jahlani Baptiste. So I know you guys are so excited for that.
Yay!
So what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk for this segment solely Auburn football. I'm going to run down their schedule. So September 5th, which we're all looking forward to, we're going to play Louisville at a neutral site in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Then we're going to play Jacksonville State at home, and then go down to Baton Rouge to play LSU. We're going to come back home to play Mississippi State and San Jose State before going on the road to play Kentucky, going on the road to play Arkansas, and then coming back to play Ole Miss. Then November 7th, we'll go down to College Station to play Texas A&M, and then come back home to play Georgia, Idaho, and Alabama. So I wanted to point out, I think, the toughest games on the schedule for Auburn. And the number one game I think will be the toughest for Auburn will be that opening game against Louisville. Louisville in 2012, they were 11-2. In 2013, they were 12-1. And last year, although they finished 9-4, remember they played number 2 FSU and was up by 21 points before they blew it. Louisville is that one team in college football that always flies under the radar, and nobody expects them to do anything. But then they do something. I think Auburn better watch out for Louisville. It's the first game. They're going to be pretty pumped. But Louisville.
No. Okay.
Explain why not Louisville.
I'll explain why not Louisville in one word.
One word, what is it?
Alabama. I'll explain why not Louisville in one more word. Georgia. I'll explain why not Louisville
I have Alabama
in one more word. Texas A&M. Now, okay, I see what you're saying. You know, Louisville, they're usually a really good team. They lost so much this last year coming into this year. They have a new quarterback coming in. They have their defense in their second year, so it'll be a stronger defense. They only returned 6 defensive starters. They do not have, a lot of talent on that defense, in my opinion. They have a good, good secondary. They're breaking in a new system. Auburn is bringing in a brand new offense. We used to be last 2 years, we've been a run-heavy team. This year, look to pass first. They won't be prepared for that. Nobody knows what Auburn's offense is going to look like.
That's true.
We have 3 great running backs. They said this is the best, backfield we've had in a while. There's no way. Well, everything is possible, but that is not the toughest game on that schedule. It will be a tough game, but I honestly think this is a double-digit victory.
Now, I agree. I agree about Georgia. I agree about Alabama. Not about Texas A&M. I don't agree about that. I think Texas A&M is in a rebuilding mode. They'll probably be lucky to get 5 wins.
Again, I disagree. They bring back Kyle Allen. They bring back one of the best offenses in the nation. I will not be surprised if they look like Auburn in 2013. Maybe not in the sense of running all the time, but the way that they score. They have their entire wide receiving staff. It's 5-star and 4-star receivers. They're bringing in Christian Kirk. They bringing back Speedy Noyle. They're bringing back so many receivers. That offense will be amazing. They have the new defensive coordinator, Chavis from LSU. He's now at Texas A&M. That defense will be better. As long as they put a defense on the field that can stop somebody, they should compete and win 9 to 10 games, if not more. I do not agree on Louisville in the sense that that is not the toughest game on the schedule. There are so many tougher games on that schedule.
Ryan, I'm going to let you go. What do you think about this?
I agree with both of you guys that I agree that Louisville does get overlooked and is a little tougher than people think. But I also agree that it's not the toughest game on the schedule because you have great, talented teams like Alabama and Georgia. And while those games are at home, those are big rivalry games, and those are all-out wars year in, year out. And so I think those two, even though they are at home, will still be the toughest. And then I think that between Arkansas and Texas A&M, I think it's a toss-up which one is tougher between those two. I think that since Auburn lost a heartbreaking game to Texas A&M last year, that Auburn will be a little bit more motivated in that game and should be able to pull that game out. And so I think because of that, Arkansas might be a little bit tougher. But I would certainly say that Louisville, the first game of the season, if it's any quality team that you're playing, it's always going to be tough because
definitely
you don't know how ready you are to play until you actually get out on the field. And Louisville, with this opportunity to play an SEC team, is going to be fired up to get a shot at a big SEC team.
Ryan, I think you made a really good point about Alabama and Georgia being, tough home games and being, Auburn's team is made up of about 35% athletes from the state of Georgia, about a good 45% from the state of Alabama, and with most of the rest of them coming from the state of Florida. So anytime you get to play against those hometown, people that you played high school ball against, there's always that much more fight in it. Alabama and Georgia, those are two of Auburn's oldest rivals. There's always going to give that much, more in those games. So I definitely agree with your point.
Going to my other toughest games, I agree. Georgia is my other tough game. Auburn will be coming off a 4-game SEC stretch. They'll play at Kentucky, at Arkansas, Ole Miss, and at Texas A&M before they come home and play Georgia. I think if there's any part of the schedule that Auburn needs to be worried about, it's that part right there. 3 away games at SEC teams, and 1 against Ole Miss, which I think is going to be a very good team. And then coming home to play Georgia, that's going to be tough. And, of course, Alabama, your last game. It's good that they always have that buffer team in between when they play Alabama. But those 3 games right there, I think, are going to be on Auburn's radar when it comes to when the season starts.
I completely agree. This last stretch of the season, the last open date comes right after homecoming, which is very early in the year against San Jose State, and then you start with 2 straight road games against teams that you would think are less talented than Auburn. But even the Kentucky game on a Thursday night is just a bit different. There's something about a Thursday night atmosphere on the road that's really tough to play in. And so, yeah, Kentucky is undermanned compared to Auburn, but even that is just tricky just because of the atmosphere. And then when you go down the line there and you get Georgia on a 5th after playing 4 straight weeks with 3 of those weeks on the road, it's going to be a little bit tough to, if they face some adversity, to really battle through maybe some fatigue that they're going through. But at the end of the day, I think when it's Georgia or Alabama, any team of that caliber, you're going to give your 100% no matter what that is. And so I think it is a very tough stretch for Auburn, but they do have the talent and hopefully the depth to be able to get through it.
I definitely agree with what you were saying. You made a good point about the Thursday night game, but I'm hoping, last year Auburn played Kansas State on Thursday night. We returned 7 starters on offense and defense. So that should make a really good part that, they have experience on a Thursday night game. So I think last year they underestimated Kansas State. They underestimated the Thursday night experience, and it definitely showed. And I think they won't do that again this year. That extra couple days of rest before the Arkansas game, that should make a difference, though Arkansas is coming off of a bye week before. So, both teams will be fresh and be ready to go. I think that, like you said, that's a tough stretch. And then you come back home, you have Ole Miss on Halloween. Ole Miss, that was a heartbreaker for them last year. I think, like you said about Texas A&M for Auburn, they're going to come in fired up. They're going to want to win. Last year, Laquan Treadwell, unfortunately, got hurt at the end of the game. So, if nothing else, I think he'll want to come in and have a great game. Then it's Texas A&M. So I stated earlier, I really, I think that Texas A&M team is a team that people are really sleeping on. Texas A&M, they're going to score. And in that game, my personal honest opinion is I think whichever team makes the bigger play defensively in the fourth quarter is who wins that game. That game is going to go down to the wire, just like it did last year. Last year Texas A&M made the play. They made Auburn turn the ball over twice to end that fourth quarter. Whoever steps up and make those plays, that's who I think is going to win that fourth quarter. And then there's Georgia. That's Georgia. They put a whooping onto Auburn last year. Auburn's gonna. I honestly believe they'll come in. They're gonna fight. It's at Auburn this year. Georgia's just kind of had its way with Auburn in the last couple of years. Even 2013, Prairie and Jordan here. A lot of people think we wouldn't have won that game. The year before that it was 41-7, 42-7. It was really high scoring, and Auburn got whooped again. UGA just been having their way with them. Now, luckily, after that stretch, if they somehow come out of there with only 1 loss, they can still make the playoffs at that point because I don't think they lose before that part of the schedule. So if you come out of there with 1 loss, you're looking at either 9-1. Idaho, they should win that game. 10-1. Idaho's currently ranked 127th out of 128 FBS teams. That is the epitome of a cupcake. They should not even be close. Sean White and the backup should be playing before the second half is even starting. Okay? And then Alabama. It's Alabama. You know how that's going to go. It's going to be a tough game. Auburn showed up last year. They looked really hungry, and hopefully they do the same this year.
So now I want to back up and look at the SEC in general. And I have a couple of things to point out. Alabama, I still don't even know if they have a starting quarterback yet. But Alabama doesn't have an easy schedule now. They play 7 top 25 teams. Now, I'm going to get into later why I think the preseason top 25 is nothing but baloney. But if you look at it, they play 7 top 25 teams. And yesterday, I was on ESPN. I saw Kirk Herbstreit released an article. And he had Tennessee in the SEC championship game. I didn't know what I thought about that. Another thing is, if Auburn's going to lose, and we pointed out Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, those teams, and they're going to be a tough game for them. If Auburn's going to lose, they're going to lose early. Because losing late is going to hurt them. Georgia's going to win the East, but watch out for Missouri, because for some reason Missouri's always up there. I don't know how, but they do it. They're magic. And lastly, the West will come down to the Iron Bowl. It's going to be poetic justice. What do you guys think about that?
Okay. So, you made a couple good points. I'm going off of what Kirk Herbstreit said with Tennessee. Tennessee, the reason they're so everybody loves to get on that bandwagon right now, they're returning 11 starters on offense. That's their entire offense.
Yeah.
They bring back, Dobson, Dobbs, sorry. He ended the season last year for them. He didn't start the season. I think they were 4-1 or 3-1 in his starts. He played amazing. The guy, he looks like the real deal. He reminds me of Dak Prescott in that he can run over you, but he's a little bit quicker, a little bit slimmer with a better arm. They returned 8 starters on defense. And they play in the East. So that's all of that experience helps. Georgia doesn't have a quarterback right now. Matty Mock, I'm honestly not sold on him. He's been there for 2 years and he still makes mistakes like he's a first-year starter. I'm not sold on him. Missouri, I think this is the year they slide back. I'm not gonna say that I think Tennessee wins the East, but I will not be surprised to see them finish second, if not win it, with UGA winning. UGA has that power run game that even if they don't find an amazing quarterback, a game manager can make the difference. Look what Greg McElroy did at Alabama. Look what A.J. McCarron did at Alabama. They just need a game manager. That's it. In the West, I think Auburn's going to take it. Call me a homer, but I believe our schedule's pretty much set up for a good run, having Alabama and Georgia at home. Alabama and Georgia, one of them are guaranteed to have a loss. They play each other.
Yeah.
Now, who it is, we won't know, but one of them are guaranteed to have a loss. If Georgia can somehow pull off beating Alabama and Auburn makes it through Georgia undefeated, even they lose to Alabama, there'll be a tiebreaker. Alabama will win it, but I don't know if that'll happen. I don't think that Alabama gets through that entire schedule outside of UGA and Auburn without losses. Like you said, they play 7 top 25 teams. That's a tough schedule.
I want to touch on something really quick. You said if they get to Georgia undefeated and lose to Alabama, Alabama wins the tiebreaker. Alabama goes to the SEC championship. If Auburn was to reach Alabama undefeated, they'll most likely be in the top 4 in the polls.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
And if they lost to Alabama, I'm not sure they'll slip out of that top 4 spot. In the end, that may actually work for Auburn because they want to play the SEC championship game, but they could very well be in the playoffs.
See, I don't think so. If you do that, that means more than likely the SEC champion is still going to go to the playoffs. I don't see them withholding somebody that won not the SEC, without somebody holding the ACC, Pac-12, Big 10, Big 12. That means one of their champions are not getting in. And even if it is Auburn, I can't justify a team that does not win their conference going into the playoffs. It's that you have to win your conference. That's just how it goes. And if you don't win your conference, I don't think you deserve the spot.
I don't know. I could see it happening. It would take a lot. It would take Michigan, the Big Ten winner to have 2 losses, and the ACC, Clemson and Florida State to lose to someone else other than when they play each other. So a lot of stuff would have to happen. I would not say it's impossible.
It's possible.
But I would say, there would be an outside chance. The bottom line is, you mentioned this earlier, Jared, it's better to get your loss out of the way early and build momentum. It's kind of like the NCAA basketball tournament, to build momentum as you head towards playoff time and not lose it.
Well, we're going to go ahead and go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the rest of college football in the AP Top 25 poll and why I think it's just nonsense. You're listening to WEGL 91.1 FM, National Sports.
You are listening to WEGL 91.1 in Auburn, Alabama.
Greetings, Earthling.
Can you tell if these vegetables are being contaminated with bacteria that could cause paralysis? Listen, you can't see it either, Use different cutting boards so that the bacteria in raw meats and seafood and their juices doesn't touch prep surfaces for other foods like veggies. Raw food may contain bacteria that can make you very sick, or worse. Roughly 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year, but you can keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up? Holla at your boy. XOXOXO. You getting these texts? Question mark. Where are you? What are you doing? OMG, you are making me mad. You better text me back. I'm waiting outside your house.
Relentless, aggressive texting is like sending an angry robot to deliver your message. When does the robot become dangerous? Let us know at that'snotcool.com.
That'snotcool.com.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, we're Lazy Birds. You're listening to WEGL 91.1.
Welcome back to National Sports here with Jared Dillard. Hope you're having a good Friday afternoon. I'm here with Ron Lavoie and Jahlani Baptiste. Before we, jump on to College Football's Top 25 AP Associated Press Poll, remember that tonight at 7 p.m., Auburn Soccer will kick off their 2015 season against UAB. And then on Sunday at 1 p.m., we will play Furman. Both games will be here on WEGL 91.1 FM. Now, College Football Top 25 poll. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Ohio State, I don't think anybody can say they don't deserve the number one spot. They got it.
Well, they can say it, but,
They can
they'll
say
probably
it,
not be taken very seriously.
You don't want to go to the state of Ohio when you say that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys. I am surprised to see Auburn in the top 10. I thought it would be in top 15. I didn't think it would show up in the top 10. I can't say I'm upset. Number 6, I thought that was a little generous. What did you guys think about that?
I mean, I thought it was what they were going to do. I didn't necessarily want us to be really highly ranked. I feel like Auburn is always best when they're coming from the underdog angle. When the more expectations that are put on them, they sometimes fold. But
you got to remember the last time we won the national championship. Were we even ranked at the beginning of the season?
We were not.
We were not.
And we were not even highly ranked midway through the season. It was until we beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M that we really started to get attention. So, bottom line is there's not a lot of teams that you look at in the preseason and go, wow, they're going to be really good. There's, teams that you think, oh, they could be. They have the potential to be, and that's why they're ranked where they are. But, Jared, I think you share the same opinion that, the preseason polls, they're just here for entertainment, for a starting point. They're not really going to be accurate. So many teams that start in the top 10 don't finish there.
I mean, I understand why we had the preseason poll. I just don't like it. It's like taxes. I understand why we have taxes. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying, but you can make an argument for Auburn that they're right around where they should be. You know, you look at the teams right under them and right below them, and they're replacing a lot more than Auburn. You know, Auburn, they didn't really have a great defense last year, but, you know, with the Will Muschamp, they're hoping to show some type of, you know, change. Auburn, the thing is, last year, in the last five losses out of 6 games, the opponents all scored more than 35 points. You know, you can't do that. You can't allow them to score that much. So they're thinking, you know, Will Muschamp comes in, he's going to at least lower that to around 25, 20 points. Auburn doesn't need an amazing defense. Auburn's going to score. They just need a defense to show up and play the game. You know, Oregon's replacing a new quarterback. You know, they have Vernon Adams coming in. You know, they're losing a lot of talent to the NFL, so I can understand, you know, Oregon is Oregon. They're going to be good. But, you know, you see why they're ranked around there. Georgia's, they're still trying to figure out their quarterback. They're at number 9. USC, you know, a lot of people are really sleeping on USC. But, I mean, you know, number 8, you can't really say they're sleeping on them. But, you know, USC, they're about good where I think they are. Florida State, they're a team that I honestly think, you know, that number 10 ranking, I personally think that's a little high. They're losing a lot of talent to the NFL. Jameis Winston single-handedly won them a lot of games last year. Then you can also say he also single-handedly put them in a hole in a lot of games last year. But, you know, he did come back in the second half. Teams like Notre Dame, Clemson, you know, you have blast from the past. You have Deshaun Watson at Clemson coming back from injury. Notre Dame, you know, they have a good team. A lot of the teams that are top, you know, 10, top 15 are your top recruiters. So, you know, I think honestly that they're basing it off of recruiting. You know, Auburn is usually around top 10. You know, some years they're top 5 recruiting. So I think it's a good place. You know, you can't really argue the Michigan State. You can't really argue Ohio State and TCU. You know, TCU and Ohio State will bring back a lot of talent. Everybody agrees Ohio State's the best team in the nation off of last year. TCU, with Javon Boykin, they're going to be good. Alabama, I think they're ranked kind of high, probably. You know, their running back core has been gutted. They're hurt. You know, their wide receiving core, 85% of their passes were to Amari Cooper last year. That was their offense for passing. They have a new quarterback. So, you know, I think their offense has a lot to, you know, discover about themselves and show the world that the number 3 ranking is pretty high. But, I mean, when you recruit the number 1 recruiting class every year, I can at least respect the ranking. Baylor, you know, they were just like with TCU last year. They were right there at the end. They bring back a lot of talent. So I think, you know, overall the AP poll is not, you know, it's not amazing. It's not terrible. But I think it's pretty right on, you know, the money in the sense of teams are right around what most people expected, except for pretty much Auburn. A lot of people are questioning it, but I think they're giving Auburn the benefit of the doubt that they will score points. It's been proven in Gus Malzahn's system he will score points. Now that he has Will Muschamp on the defensive side of the ball, they're just hoping that Auburn, you know, can slow down the opposing offense and not let them score more than 30 every single game. So I think I think the AP polls are pretty good. Personally, I mean, preseason polls are always iffy because you never know what happens throughout the year. But I mean, it's all right, I guess. I can't argue it too much.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with this. Michigan State. I've been high on Michigan State. I always have been. Sorry. If I wasn't an Auburn fan, I'll probably be a Michigan State fan. I love Michigan State. In 2013, they were 13-1, and last year they were 11-2. They're a very good football team. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, November 21st, mark it on your calendar. Michigan State will beat Ohio State. Mark my words, I just said that. I know you think I'm crazy. And you know what? You have every right to say I'm crazy. But I think Michigan State will beat Ohio State on November 21st. It wouldn't really be upset considering Michigan State is like number 5 in the poll. But I think they can do it. If there's a team that can do it, it's going to be Michigan State. And you point out USC was at number 8, Notre Dame number 11. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with USC and Notre Dame being up there. I think that in college football, they're the darlings. They'll get a little higher ranking. But I don't think Notre Dame should have been number 11. I don't think USC should have been number 8. I think USC USC should probably be around 14, 15, and Notre Dame probably in the 20s somewhere. Oh, here we go.
Alrighty. I can. First, I'm going to start with your last thing you just stated on USC. The reason USC is number 8, they bring back 20 starters. You know, you have 22 starters in football, not including kicker and punter. That's 20 starters from a 9-4 team. This 9-4 team also lost to Arizona State. Really close game. Arizona State's also a top 15 team. They lost to UCLA, another top 15 team. That game was not as close, but, you know, it was a rivalry game. And rivalry games are always intense. They lost to, you know, Boston College, which I can't really make an argument for. That's just a bad loss. And they lost to Utah. And, I mean, that's another good team. But I honestly think with that experience, they're going to be a really good team. Now, the whole thing is we have to see what goes down with Coach Steve Sarkisian. The whole drinking in the locker room. If he faces any type of suspension or anything, maybe it's 2-3 games, he could miss, you know, some really important time with his team. And, you know, he might end up missing the Idaho game and Arkansas State, which are not terrible. USC should beat them. I honestly think with the amount of returners they bring in, that recruiting class that they had, that was a top 5 recruiting class, their schedule is set up really well for them to go on for a good run. They're playing Oregon in Oregon. They're playing UCLA at UCLA, but I mean, it's still in LA, so it's not a far travel. They have Stanford at home. They're set up for a pretty good run. So I think that's basically why they're ranked so high and why they believe that they'll be a top team in the nation next year. And they're bringing back so much off of a good team. Now on to Michigan State. Michigan State. What can I say about them? They're a good team. You know, they're always going to come play, you know, good defense. They're going to score when they need to. Now, do I think they're going to be Ohio State? No, I don't think so. Not in Ohio State when they lost by 2 touchdowns at home. It's the same teams, basically. I do not see Michigan State beating them. But, I mean, I won't say it can't happen. It can happen. And, you know, when you look at it, those are the same exact teams. It's like the same argument people make for 04 Auburn and USC. 2002, 2003, USC came to Auburn. They whooped them. Auburn went to USC. They whooped them. People say, would that 04 Auburn team would have beat them? I personally, hate to say it, I don't think so. It were the exact same teams, and Auburn lost both of those games, and I think it will be the exact same thing. You know, it's the same 2 teams. I don't see it changing that much. Now, if this was basketball, it's the same. I think that makes a big difference. You know, you play a team multiple times in basketball, it'll help you. You'll get better. But these are years apart. I don't think that it makes that big of a difference. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. I really think that Michigan State's going to lose that game, and I believe USC, you know, they're going to be a good team next year. Now, USC is still, I look at them in Oklahoma in the same light. They always lose to somebody they shouldn't. It always happens. They will have the talent. They will have the coaching. They will have the schedule set up for them to win. But then a Boston College comes around and they lose. So, you know, we just got to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I am not as high on USC as you, Jahlani. Not because of their players and talent, because we all know they recruit well, and like you said, they've got 20 returning starters, but I'm not very high on Steve Sarkisian, and not for the drinking issue. I just think he's an average coach. I don't think that he is a very great coach. He did a good job at Washington. He definitely dug them out of a hole. But I think when it comes, I think it's yet to be seen if he can actually win a big game, because that was always Washington's problem. Is one year they were very highly ranked with Jake Locker, and they had a couple big opportunities to upset some teams, and they couldn't do it. And so I would question the coaching staff more than the players at USC. And like you said, the USCs and Oklahomas of the world always seem to lose to somebody that they shouldn't. And so I could definitely see that happening. And then as far as, you know, one more thing about the preseason poll, I think it's a lot of just going off of who's a big name and let's stick them here. Because, you know, with Notre Dame losing Everett Golson to transfer and then losing the last, 4 out of 5 games last year, I don't think that they are a top 12 team. I think they are a top 25 team, but they do have a very favorable schedule, and maybe the poll kind of foresaw them getting a lot of victories just because they don't have a lot of tough teams on the docket. But I think Notre Dame is overrated. But I mean, the bottom line is this will all get played out over time. And as far as Michigan State, they are one of the heirs of consistency in the Big Ten. They've been doing it year in, year out since Mark D'Antoni got there. But it is at Ohio State, correct? The Michigan State-Ohio State game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That is in Columbus? Yes. If it was in East Lansing, I could see Michigan State winning that game, but I can't see them pulling that off at Ohio State. I give you that Michigan State is a very good football team and capable of that, but I don't think they'll do that on the road.
You better hope they don't win, because if they do win and we show back up here at Auburn, I'm going to rub it in both of your faces. I think they'll win.
I will give you my word right now.
Right now.
If Ohio State loses to Michigan State, I will come back on this show and apologize to you, and I will, do some type of crazy routine. What we will do, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I'm very confident in my choice. I don't think Ohio State is going to lose that game. And just to go back to what Ryan was saying, I mean, I agree with you when you said that, Washington, they had their opportunities when Steve Sarkisian was there, and they couldn't win the big game. But I just think that talent level of Washington and USC is a big difference. It's just a big difference. And you also got to look, while Steve Sarkisian was coaching at Washington, and he was in the Pac-12 North, he had to play, Stanford and Oregon pretty much every year. So there's only really so much he could do. Now, we know this is not the same Stanford teams of years past, but when he did play, those Stanford teams were really tough teams. But, I do agree with you. They had the opportunities that they did not take advantage of. And like you said, he has to prove himself in the big game. But, when you get a job like USC, they expect you to win the big games. That's why they have a history and there's such a storied past.
Now we're going to look at each conference and pick a couple of teams from those conferences that we got to look out for. For the ACC, Clemson and Georgia Tech. It's going to be the year for one of those teams. Florida State's down and out. I don't think they'll do anything this year. Georgia Tech has always been around that top. And Clemson, I think they're going to have a breakout year. I think Clemson's going to be on the radar this year. In the Big 12, I got Oklahoma. And in the Big 10, like I said, Michigan State. I'm really high on them. In the Pac-12, I have two teams. It's either going to be Arizona or Arizona State. One of those teams will bring the Pac-12 championship to Arizona. I know that's probably my out there pick, but I think Arizona State's going to bring the Pac-12 championship there, to Arizona. And for SEC, although I beat up on them in the earlier in the show when I said they only get 5 games, I think we do have to watch out for Texas A&M. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to go on with them. I think they probably won't get more than 5-6 wins this year. But then again, I think Texas A&M is like the unknown in the SEC. That's what I think. I know you guys are high on them, but I'm not really. I'm not that high on Texas A&M. I don't know why I'm not. I'm just not. I can't help it. What do you guys think about that?
Okay. Well, I agree with your original choice of Clemson and the ACC. I believe that bringing Deshaun Watson back healthy in his 3rd year in the offense, if I remember correctly, they should have a really good season. They have a favorable schedule. I personally am not too sold on Georgia Tech simply because they had a good year last year. And Paul Johnson is not the most consistent coach in the nation. He will win you some games one year, and then they'll go back to mediocrity for a couple years. Me personally, I think that if there's another team, the real sleeper in the ACC is Duke. Cutcliffe is doing a great job over there. I'm not saying that they're going to win the ACC by any means, but they've been to bowl games the last 2 years, and with Florida State, pretty much being a semi-pro team the last couple years and going down, they're not going to be as amazing as they were. I will not be surprised if Duke steals a couple games they shouldn't. I still think it's Clemson's division, or not even division, conference to lose. So I'm putting my money on Clemson. On that note, I'll go over to the Big 12. You stated Oklahoma. That state, no.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of Trevor Knight. I don't even – have they named a starting quarterback already? Do you guys know?
I would just assume it would be Trevor.
I know they had the Texas Tech quarterback transfer over. They were in a close competition, and the fact that they hadn't named a quarterback to this point is saying that they're not sold on Trevor Knight, because they should have named him starting quarterback. I'm not sold on Trevor Knight. I'm not sold on Oklahoma. Bob Stoops has let his foot get in his mouth talking about the SEC because he needs to worry about Oklahoma. I personally think the Big 12 is going to go to TCU. There's just no other way it goes. Art Briles is 10-41, playing a team with a winning record outside of their stadium in Waco. They have to go to TCU. They have to go to Oklahoma State. They have to go to Oklahoma. They're going to lose some of those games. That's just how it goes. I'm going to go with TCU.
Now, to point out to Oklahoma, I wasn't necessarily saying they were going to win the division. I was saying they're going to be a team to look out for.
Okay.
I think they can mess up the division pretty bad if they win a couple of games. They're going to get lucky. They're probably going to get lucky in some places, and they'll probably mess up the division.
And it was just brought to my attention that the quarterback that transferred from Texas Tech, Baker Mayfield, has actually been named the starting quarterback over Trevor Knight. So I told you I wasn't sold on Trevor Knight. With that, I'm going to go to the Big Ten. I think it's Ohio State's conference. Even though I was selling Michigan State short earlier, I still think they're a really good team. I just don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. Michigan State, you always have to look out for them. They're going to be really good. Outside of that, I think Penn State is on the way up. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State. And I think Michigan needs a couple years for Harbaugh to get his system in and get his players in. But I think those three teams will be really good, and I'm really just going to give that conference to Ohio State. And finally, I'm going to go Pac-12. I'm going to go USC. As I stated earlier, I gave you my reasons pretty much. They bring back so much talent. Steve Sarkisian. The rest of the conference is not up to where it used to be. Oregon is going to be down, I believe. Stanford, they haven't looked great the last couple of years. You still have Utah and the Arizona schools. I think they'll be good. They'll steal. Arizona State's going to win some games they probably shouldn't win. I guess not really shouldn't win. They're a good team, but I think they're going to steal a couple wins. And for the SEC, I'm going to go with my dark horse, Arkansas, but I think it's Auburn's conference to lose. Arkansas has a great running game. They have a beastly offensive line. They have good quarterback play. He's not amazing. Brandon Allen's not amazing at quarterback, but he won't turn the ball over as he proven last year. So I'm going to go with Arkansas as my sleeper pick with a solid defensive line play and solid offensive line.
Jahlani, I must say I'm still hung up over Duke being the surprise in the ACC. I mean, I understand Coach Cutcliffe has brought that program to levels they've not been since Steve Spurrier, but they don't have an exuberant amount of returning starters. They have 12, and I personally think that if you were to pick a sleeper outside of Georgia Tech, they're in the top 20 preseason, so whether they're a sleeper or not could go either way. But I would say the sleeper is Duke's arch rival North Carolina, because they have 17 returning starters.
Did this kid just say North Carolina?
I did. I just said North Carolina, and here's why I said North Carolina. They returned their starting quarterback, Marquise Williams, who had a very good year last year as a dual threat. So they've got him. They've got outstanding wide receiving core. Ryan Switzer, Quinshaw Davis have returned. Switzer almost set the record for punt return touchdowns his freshman year. And then on the defense, a defense that was awful to say at best last year, I believe was in the 100s in the nation. They've now hired Gene Chizik, the former Auburn head coach, as defensive coordinator. And while Chizik was a bad head coach, he was a very good defensive coordinator. He was defensive coordinator of the 2004 Auburn team that went undefeated. So he can be a good defensive coordinator, and they only need a marginal improvement. And Larry Fedora is an excellent offensive mind. He's put together great offenses. It's always been the defense that's been the problem there. And so if they were to fix that defense, I could see them winning 9 or 10 ball games. But one other sleeper from the Big Ten, I really like Penn State. James Franklin did a fantastic job at Vanderbilt. There was a lot of energy in that program, and I personally was sad to see him leave. I knew he would because Vanderbilt's not a destination job, but the energy around the Vandy program while he was there was to new heights for them, and so I think he's bringing that same thing with Penn State. And Penn State's a very proud program, and so a very proud, rich tradition program, and so I could totally see Penn State making a run in the Big Ten this year.
Ryan, I'm going to just cut in real quick before you go to your other conferences. I definitely see the point you're making with North Carolina. I definitely agree. I just think North Carolina has a lot going on right now. They do definitely bring back more starters than Duke, but the last couple of years, Duke's had a more winning culture, I would say. And, you learn from winning just as much as you learn from losing. But I just think that Duke had recruited a little bit better. And I'm going to say that, Duke is just a little bit better. I could be completely wrong, but that's why I picked a bold pick. I still think that is Clemson's conference, though.
North Carolina did ruin Duke's season last year when they beat them, taking them out of ACC Coastal Division contention. That game locked them out of going to the ACC championship game. So Duke will definitely want revenge on North Carolina. I will say that. I'm going to throw back to Jared now with some. I think
we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're running over. That's our fault. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to finish up on college football, and then we're going to wrap up the show. You're listening to National Sports on WEGL 91.1 FM in Auburn.
You are a waste, a loser. Everyone hates you. Why don't you just stay in your car and keep driving? I'm serious. Drive until you run out of gas, then get out of your car and walk until you find someone who doesn't think you're dumber than bricks. Could take a while, but at least all that walking might burn a couple of calories.
You may not witness bullying like this every day. Your kids do. They want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov to learn safe, simple ways your child can help stop bullying. Be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Be a reader, tutor, or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Take the pledge now at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
If you had the choice of eating haggis or listening to WEGL, you'd listen to WEGL too. Listen to WEGL 91.1, Auburn, Alabama.
And we're back. National Sports this Friday afternoon. Still here with Ron Lavoie and Jahlani Baptiste. Ron, you were in the middle talking about your conferences and your sleeper picks in them. You can go ahead and continue that conversation.
Thank you, Jared. So like I said in the Big Ten, I think Penn State can make a run. I still think Ohio State will win the conference overall with just the fantastic offense that Urban Meyer's assembled. Going out to the Big 12, Bob Stoops is kind of on the hot seat. He's struggled in the big games recently, underperforming teams seemingly almost every year, kind of the Big 12's version of Mark Richt. And so I think this is a make or break year in a lot of ways for him and his kind of reputation with the program. I think TCU is the best team in that league. I think TCU, with Trayvon Boykin, the way he played last year, Heisman candidate, whenever you return a Heisman candidate, a finalist, I think you're worlds ahead of a lot of teams when you do that. And so I think TCU will win the Big 12. In the Pac-12, I think obviously Oregon will be up there. UCLA, USC has the chance for sure. I mentioned earlier that I'm not high on Coach Sark, but you can't deny they have a lot of returning stars, a lot of returning talent. USC always recruits well, and so USC will definitely be in the mix as well. A lot of people like Arizona State. I'm not as high on Arizona State. Once again, I'm not in love with their coach Todd Graham. Some of these for me is I acknowledge the talent and the returning players, but I don't always love the coaching, and so I think I definitely think because you can. Here's why I'm going to pick Oregon in the Pac-12 game. I like Marcus Mariota, and I thought he was a very good quarterback, but I think in a lot of ways it's a system quarterback. It's you know that's the thing with Auburn's running backs is. Yeah, they've had very good running backs, but in a way, is it just their system that got the running backs their yards the last year? And so I think with an offense like Oregon's, I think, yeah, Mariota did it a lot better than most could, but could they find someone that could give out close to what he did? Yeah, I think so. And if you have that up-tempo offense that really tires out a defense, I think there's no reason why Oregon couldn't have a lot of similar success that they did last year.
All right, now we're done talking about college football. That was a lot of college football to talk about.
It was.
We're gonna end with a little bit of sad news. Yesterday, NBA player Darrell Chocolate Thunder Dawkins passed away. He was 58 years old. He's probably revered as one of the greatest slam dunkers in the NBA. He was selected number 5 overall in the 1975 draft by the 76ers. And if you're wondering where he got the nickname Chocolate Thunder from, he got it from Stevie Wonder. Also, a little bit of sad news. Justin Wilson, IndyCar driver, passed away at the age of 37 when he was injured at Pocono Raceway when debris, I don't know if you guys saw the video, but debris from a crash came up and it hit him in the head. He went to a coma and he died the next day. He was a good advocate of keeping IndyCar drivers safe, and a little bit of a heartwarming part of the story is that he donated his organs and saved 6 lives. So you guys got any thoughts about that?
I did see the wreck. I did not see it live. I saw it afterwards, and it was something else. A piece of debris just flying. Could have missed him easily, but just kind of took a downward turn, hit him right in the helmet. And even if you have a helmet, when you have thousands of pounds of force from that thing, a pretty sturdy object moving at you while you're moving over 100 miles per hour creates so much force, and a helmet is not even going to be able to protect you from that. And it knocked him unconscious, and then he crashed into the inside wall. NASCAR has taken precautions to keep such things happening, but when IndyCar is a completely different deal because you have an open roof, and there's definitely going to be a lot of controversy if they need to offer more protection and maybe shut off the roof because, this is unfortunately becoming almost an every year occurrence in IndyCar. This has happened a couple times the last couple years, and it is certainly not something that we want in the sport.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you guys are saying. It's always sad news, hearing about the passing of anyone, especially doing something that they loved. You just got to feel for his family, man. It's tough. He's out there doing what he loves. It's always a bad situation. Darrell Dawkins, is one of the greatest. It's just sad, whenever somebody, just passes away way before their time. They were 58 and what did you say, 32? That's tough. It really is.
37.
37. Okay, I'm sorry about that. That's just always a tough place,
Well, that's going to do it for our show today. Special thanks to Ryan Lavoie, Jahlani, Baptiste, and J.J. Jackson for appearing on the show today. You guys got anything else to add? Just throw it out there.
College football starts in 6 days, Thursday. Let's go. I'm excited. Ready to get the game back going.
I think everybody's ready to get some college football back. Ron, you got anything to
add? Can't wait for college football for sure. Also, really enjoying the MLB pennant races. Should be fun down the stretch to see how those play out.
Okay, guys, you've been listening to National Sports on WEGL 91.1 FM in Auburn, Alabama. We will be back next Friday at noon. I am your host, Jared Dillard. So long, Auburn.